Hello, I'm Casey from Whole Child Counseling, and today I'm going to talk about some tips, hacks, and strategies I use to stay organized and some systems I've put in place for success being a school social worker or school adjustment counselor. Let's dive in. With organization and putting systems into place for success as a school social worker or school counselor, you really have to think of this: doing something today that your future self will thank you for. I'm going to talk to you about 6 steps that I use, and I'm going to deep dive into all of these. But first, it's to list all categories and then list all topics and themes, sort and purge, store your items, log them, and this will help you with the planning process. So, listing all categories, I mean all the different physical resources you have and digital resources you have. So, you've probably got children's books and reference books. These might be like curriculum books, maybe like my book, Skills for Big Feelings. You've got board games and card games and arts and crafts supplies, things in your desk, TPT and printable activities. And then for digital resources, you might have things in your Google Drive, on TPT, saved to your hard drive at your work computer, saved at home. I want you to list all the categories where your stuff is. And this is just kind of a tip, but this can seem very overwhelming. So when you're first doing this whole 6-step process, I want you to start with your smallest category to process with first. That way you can find success, because otherwise this is going to feel really overwhelming. The second step is to list all your topics or themes. You want to decide on how you're going to categorize things, and you want to keep it consistent across your digital resources, your physical resources. So, for example, I have something I call special topics. These are things that would be more like individual counseling topics that I would work on with a child. It wouldn't really be a group. Like maybe it's like having an incarcerated parent or having a family member with cancer, something like that. So for me, that goes in the special topics theme, and that's where I put those things. So you need to come up with themes or topics that are consistent that you're using. So I'll give you a list and you can screenshot this. These are things that I use to categorize my resources. And I use these across my digital resources, these same theme areas, and my physical resources. Like you'll find binders with these categories. The third step is to sort and purge. I know that you probably have a bunch of stuff in your office that you haven't looked at in years. Maybe you stepped into a role and someone retired and they left a bunch of stuff there that you've never touched or looked at. I know I've gone into buildings and offices and like there's a bunch of VHS tapes. Like we're not going to use those. So get rid of the things you don't like, you won't use, and ask your district, because I don't know, they might have policies about throwing things away or whatever, but it might be fine to just get rid of it. So you can ask your principal what the rule is first so you don't get into any trouble. The next step is storage. So I'm going to break this down into 2 categories. I'm going to talk about physical organization and how we store those things, and I'm going to give you pictures and examples of what I do, and then I'm going to talk about digital storage. So physical organization, this is a picture of my binders, and I have them categorized by those topic or themes. And sometimes I do have a lot of things, so they will spill over, and I might have more than one binder for a topic. And I have them placed, all my binders placed on a shelf alphabetically. I've got, I think it's like I don't know if I think it's a 4x4 cube shelf from Target that they're on currently. And each time I I have in these binders, I use these plastic things I'll show you in a minute. And every time I log them into my SEL database, which is my digital database, I use a little permanent marker to make a check in the bottom right corner so I know that the thing in these binders were logged. I did this years ago, and it took a long time, but I'm so glad that I did it, because when I need something and I'm like, oh, what was that resource? I just use my little digital searchable inventory database and I look it up on there and it tells me exactly what binder it's in. So these are how I organize inside the binder. I use heavy duty sheet protectors, like you can see for the data collection log. They do sell thin ones that are really flimsy, but I'm not a big fan of those. I use a lot of 3-hole punch clear zippered pockets, like you can see this perspective detective game in. I've got the game and I've got a bunch of cards, and these are on cardstock and they're laminated and they all fit here. There's 3-hole punch at the bottom. That says 2-hole punch, but it's a 3-hole punch. So I just clip that right into my binder. I pull it out, and then when I'm planning my groups for the week, I put them in the day of the week on my rainbow cart, which I'll show you. I use the sheet protectors for things that are like thinner, like visuals or something like that. I don't do like games with a bunch of cards. I also use the front and back pockets of the binders. I like to buy binders that have both front and back pockets. And yeah, like I said, I don't think there's a picture of a check mark in this, but once it's logged into my SEL database, I do put a check mark so I know it's there. I also use these rainbow task card cases. These hold 16 boxes, but I can put multiple, they're pretty thick, so I can put multiple activities in the same box. So like, the fall box has the fall expected behavior card game cards and the fall yoga cards, for example. I keep them by season or holiday or topic together. I print the name of the activity on a Post-it, and then it's just like easy to read and see. I usually put it in a Ziploc. Sometimes I do rubber bands and Ziplocs. I'll do that a lot of times if I want to show like, okay, I use rubber bands to sort like this group. My Monday 9 a.m. group did these cards, but they still need to do these cards. For smaller cards, I might use plastic crayon boxes. You can get those at back to school time for like $1 each usually. And for card steps that stay in a particular order, like I have the Skills for Big Feelings cards for my growing bundle. I use a binder ring, so they're always in the order that the kids use them, so they can just flip through them. And there's a picture of that. You see the flat tire with the binder ring. So it has the coping skill and it's on a binder ring, and I can easily flip through it to get to what visual I need. I keep plastic Ziploc bags in snack size, sandwich size, and gallon size in my office. I also keep rubber bands, Post-its, binder clips, and binder rings nearby. So I divide up large cards into sets. So I have a lot of resources that I've made and then I sell in my Teacher Pay Teacher store, Whole Child Counseling, and like one activity will have 40 cards. When I'm doing a group with kids in school, it's a 30-minute group. We're not going to go through 40 cards. So a lot of times I will divide card sets up into like set A and set B, or even more sets than that. So I can say like, Monday 2 p.m. group, set A is done, and then I know we need to do set B. I always keep data collection logs on a clipboard, blank ones, ready to go, ready to log my data. And you can get that as a freebie at wholechildcounseling.com in my free resource library. By the way, all the links to the things that I'm showing you are in my organization blog post, so I will put that link in the comments. Here's the crayon boxes I was telling you about. I use these for smaller cards, but also for office supplies. I love the way they stack on top of each other. I've got binder rings, paper clips, rubber bands, tabs, binder clips, everything in the little in the little crayon boxes. If it's very small, I use these pixie boxes, which are like half the size for things like push pins or whatever. This is inside my desk. I love these 12 by 12 scrapbook boxes. These are I use to store thicker things or things I have a lot of, like that wouldn't really work for one of my folders or binders. So like I have a lot of stickers. I have a lot of conversation starters. I have a lot of file folder activities. So these are thick, and I use this scrapbook boxes for this. Other things that I have in them are like adapted books. I have a bunch of social stories that are held together with binder rings that just don't really work well on my bookshelf. And then I do seasonal storage because I do a lot of seasonal or holiday activities with kids that you can find at my Teacher Pay Teacher, Whole Child Counseling, or at wholechildcounseling.com. But I use these really nice plastic, basically folders that kind of close, and I've got labels for them. For yourself, you're going to need to decide, like, do you want your seasonal or your holiday activities with all the rest of your activities, or do you want them separate? I like them separate, so I have them in a crate, and they're just here by the holiday and the season. And when that season comes around, I just pull the thing out and I have it. This is what works for me. I actually am in a smaller office now, so I keep this crate at home in my basement, and I just pull it out and rotate it, bring it to work, and put it back. This is one way I found to reduce Post-it clutter on my desk is to use peel and stick dry erase. I found I had like so many Post-its everywhere. It was like actually stressing me out, and sometimes they would like get curled up because it would be like humid or something, and it was just like not effective. You can put these on desks, on walls. Obviously, you're not going to write anything confidential on them if it's out in public or whatever. I have this slide out part of this desk. This was in my old office. I'm not sure what this is for. Maybe it's this was a very old desk, so who knows? But there was this slide out drawer. It wasn't even a drawer. It was just like a slide out, like, I don't even know what you call it, just slab. The other thing is, instead of using dry erase markers on these, you can use wet erase markers. Have you heard of these before? They're amazing. They don't smudge, but you can wash them away with a little bit of water, like, or the Expo spray if you want to use that. So it's like they're not, dry erase gets messy. The wet erase does not get messy. So I love it. Let's talk about book organization. These are mine. I have these labeled book bins by topic and theme, and everyone isn't exactly the same because, as more time goes on, I buy more and more books, and these aren't even all my books. This is just one little area of it. But I log every book in my SEL database. So when I'm like, oh my gosh, where is that book? I just go to my database, I search for either the author, if I can remember, or the book, and I'm like, okay, it's in my friendship and kindness bin or whatever. And there's some books that I have so many of that they won't fit into one of these book bins. So I just use one of the cubes in my cube shelves for that whole topic. Like that one is relaxation and mindfulness. There's too many books on that, so it gets a whole shelf, but they're all together. This is from the Artsy Fartsy Counselor you can follow her on Instagram, Dr. Beth Ruff. I love the way she organized her books in rainbow order, and it looks so pretty. This is so inspiring. And I have really thought about doing this too. I just don't know if I'll be able to find my things as quickly. That's the only reason why I haven't yet. But she uses the app Bookshelf to know where they are. And some other folks have told me they use an app called Library Thing. I haven't used any of those. I use my SEL database. And these are from the Literacy Garden. Some other ways you can consider washi tape on spines. I think that would really work better, not for kids' picture books, but if you have chapter books for older kids, or maybe your reference books, you could use that to organize them. So you could have different color washi tapes, means a different category. You could do the paint stick dividers. I used to do that. Or you could even paint your shelves by color and have the color mean different things. I'm giving you this, and I love to use these. It's a book marker. So when you pull a book out, you put this book marker in so you know exactly where to put it back. I can't hold all that information in my mind. I've got so much going on in my mind. I can't remember exactly where to put things. And some books could go in multiple categories. So using this book marker is so helpful. And that is a freebie for you that you can find in the organization blog post that I'll link below. Let's talk about organizing games. First step, I already said this in Sort and Purge, but I'm going to say it again. Get rid of the games you don't like or do not get played in your office. And you can consider stacking games vertically on a shelf like this. Often it's easier to see and easier to pull out when they're vertical. Some folks get rid of boxes and place them in semi-transparent mesh bags. I haven't done that yet. But you got to teach your kids how you want them to put away the board games, and they will take the responsibility and do that. For Don't Break the Ice, my rule is we always set it up before we put it away. So that way, when the next person's ready, it's ready to go. We don't just throw all the pieces in the box. And again, all the games are logged in my digital database. I have some games that are very old that I've had forever and ever because I've been doing this job for many years. As you can look at the game Topple, it's ancient, but I love it and we still use it. So I use these big rubber bands around old boxes to help them keep them in place and keep them neat on the shelf if the box is kind of falling apart. All right, let's talk about digital organization. How you store and organize your digital files. You can organize your purchases on TPT. So the first thing you have to do is log into TPT, and then in the top right corner, you click the circle and you click My Purchases and then My Collections, and then you'll click Create a Collection. Use the same topics and themes that you already outlined and decided on. Let me show you how to do this with my Teacher Pay Teacher. Here we go. So I'm going to click my name, my purchases. Oh, the My Collections is right there now. Sometimes they update things on the site. So My Collections is here, and you can see I have all different categories, but if I wanted to add something to a collection, I would click Add to a Collection, and then I could just do a little checkbox. Right now, at the time of this video recording, you can only have, I think, 100 files in a collection. Now, Google Drive and computer folders, getting them organized. So I had 16 years in one district, and I had everything saved on my Google Drive and very organized there. And then I left the district and it's all gone. So I'm not going to be able to show you this right now. But let me give you some tips anyway. I want you to consider using a separate school-based Google account, especially if you log into teachers' computers to go do lessons in the classroom. So I made an account which I only used to log into other people's computers. And that way it didn't have access to like my Amazon or my teacher pay teacher or anything like that. I think that's a good thing to do. I think it's also really a good idea to have your own school-based Google account. Even if you're not a Google district, not your district account, but your own one that you use at work. Because if you do change jobs and you've like loaded all your links and you've saved all these files in your Google Drive for like Google Slides, digital activities and stuff, then it's like they're all gone. So I wasn't thinking I was going to change districts after 16 years, but I decided to do it. And then it's kind of like, oh, I wish I had done this. So learn from my mistakes. Anyway, use the same topics and themes in your Google Drive and your computer files in your subfolders that you use for everything else, for those binders, for the book categories. You be consistent with your topics. You want to create folders and subfolders on Google Drive. You just go to drive.google.com, and on the left, you can click New and then click Folder, and then enter a name for your folder and click Create. You can color code your Google Drive folders. You just click the three dots to the right of the folder, click Organize, and then you would choose a color. I also like to click Organize and add to stars if it's a frequently used document. Yep. Oh, and if you add it to the stars, the file will be on the left sidebar under starred. All right, let's talk about logging your items. You need to log your items into a digital searchable SEL database. This way you can keep track and know where every single activity, book, supply, game, video is. You can have the links for all your resources. I have another video where I show you my digital SEL database, so you can check this out, but I use it every single day. It is amazing. As you can see, like I have the Google Drive link, the link to TPT. I didn't set up the Castle competencies and the Ask a Mindsets, but like if you want to, you can do that. I have so many resources that my main job was this. So on this screen, it's just showing what's in my self-control binder. And then planning, how to plan all your groups efficiently. So I usually start with an assessment of the child. So in my social skills, in my social emotional IEP and treatment goal book, there is over 450 measurable SMART goals, but also in there are SEL assessments that the child can do themselves. They're differentiated for different ages, or you can even have the teacher. Sometimes I even have a parent do one of them. This is to identify lagging skills that you're going to target and create a goal around. I also use past data collection sheets, observations as part of my assessment process, but I'm also one of those people that I collect data, whether I'm seeing the kid on a 504, an IEP, or through Gen Ed. I just use those data collection sheets as part of my process. And then I put these goals and objectives onto my goal summary sheet, and I distill the goal down so it's like really simple and easy to look at a glance. And I put it on my group planning log. And my group planning log is where I plan out longer term group planning. And I usually try to plan out my groups. Like I'll go to like the next vacation, So if it's like around winter break, like around December, like I'll try to do it till February break. That's how I try to do it. And things are always shifting and changing, and it's digital and it's so easy to add and revise. I do have videos of all this process too. I'll talk about it a little bit, but you can actually watch me do the process in the other videos. Then I look at my SEL database. So like, let's say the kid's goal was, perspective taking. I do a quick search in my SEL database to look at what perspective taking activities do I have? What books do I have? What videos do I have? What can I use to help me meet this child's goal? And then I just add those lessons and plans into the group planning log. And then I always do write down where it's stored, like, the perspective taking activities in my perspective taking binder. That's pretty common sense, but like it's not always that clear cut. And I do include a link if it's digital. And then this is my rainbow cart, and I do have free copies of these labels for you on that organization blog post, but I take my master schedule and then I make a copy of it digitally to create my weekly plan. So then I look at my Google Calendar and I add onto my weekly plan any appointments or meetings I have. If I have to reschedule any groups or lessons because there's like an IEP meeting or something, I do it at that time. And then I pull the lessons from my binders and I put them in the drawer. Like for my Monday group, it was that perspective taking lesson. It goes in there. I print the weekly plan. I put it on a clipboard on my desk. And I also if I need, oops, sorry, my alarm's going off. If I need any like photocopies, like anything to prep for the session, I'll put them in the drawer. After the counseling session, I log the attendance by checking each student's name off on the group planning log. And I also gray out the whole row just because it's so much easier to scan through it and see. And then I make any changes that I jotted down on my clipboard. And again, you can see this whole process in the other videos. Another thing that's really handy to do is if you do a task repeatedly, write down the steps and use templates as much as possible. I use a lot of Trello and Google Docs, and I do like Google Docs a lot because you can use clickable table of contents by student name, and I like the check boxes, which you also get on Trello, but this is a liaison checklist. So if I am the liaison for an IEP, that doesn't happen sometimes, but not all the time. I don't want to use up my brain space trying to remember all the steps that I need to do and all the things to, that I don't mess this up or whatever. My brain I need to leave my brain open to like creative space and good things. So that's why having like lists and systems are so important because it frees up that capacity in your brain. So I just have this checklist that I can copy, change the kid's name, and then have the digital, table of contents, click their name, and then whatever step I do, I just click it when it's done. And then I know, okay, this has been done and I don't have to worry about it. It just saves mental anguish. Some people also use the Workona, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Google Chrome extension for grouping tabs. I'm not using that right now, but I did want to mention it because I heard it was cool. You can, for a to-do list, I like to use Trello, but there's also Google Keep. And consider organizing your to-do list by location, like phone calls you have to make, computer tasks you have to do, things you have to do in the main office, things you have to do during parent pickup, like people you have to talk to. Try to set up a time to capture everything, kind of have like a brain dump. Again, that's what I'm saying. When you get the things out of your head, if you learn to just, as soon as something comes in your head, write it down into wherever you capture your things, it will save you so much brain space and just give you a lot of mental clarity and space. The 2-minute rule is from the book Getting Things Done with David Allen, and basically he says if it takes less than 2 minutes to do, don't write it down and just do it right then. I don't always follow that rule, but I try to. And then I suggest keeping a to be filed folder and even a drawer like in my rainbow cart, or a bin, and also a to be prepped, and then go through it weekly and do it. A few more best practices and tips before we wrap up is consider using vertical spaces to organize. This is like a really tall metal filing cabinet. So I used like a magnetic pencil holder, and I used little magnet hooks to hang my lunch line passes. You can also get those on the Lunch Bunch blog for free. Okay, other best practices: label everything and log everything. Use transparent containers if you can. You don't need to rebuy everything and spend a bunch of money, but like just moving forward when you need to buy something, having a transparent container is very helpful because it's easy to see what you have. Think of non traditional organization tools. Try to keep your download folder clean. Start very small. Don't try to tackle this all at once. You need to create a maintenance or an upkeep plan because even once you have everything logged and everything is where it's supposed to be in the right place, you need to stay on top of it weekly. So, in my weekly plan, when I do my billing and I do my prepping, I give myself time to do like maintenance on my organization systems. You can think about scheduling emails out in advance, and in some email systems, they even have like a send later button. I know Google does. And book recommendations that I want to give you are Getting Things Done by David Allen and Atomic Habits by James Clear. And that is all I have for you. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you will go to the blog and check out the blog post with the links to the things I shared here. I also hope you'll consider getting my organization growing bundle. It is amazing and it has all the digital tools I talked about in here. It also has printable versions of everything, which for the most part I use the digital myself, but I do print like my data collection logs and my weekly plan every week. This is going to be a game changer. If this is the year you're finally going to get organized, I have all the tools for you in there. Just check out the reviews on it. I know you're going to love this. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to Whole Child Counseling.